and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. This is your extra show for the week. My name is Cammy Bell. I am your host as always, and I am tingling with delight because I've been trying to get this man on extra since the start of the season. He's always had some excuse for one thing or another, but he's so obsessed with the financial world, he'll certainly come on to extra when checks are involved. And that's Andy McGowan.
Cammy, see that tingling, mate? It could be a stroke at your age, so in your lifestyle. So I think we should just call this pod to a halt, and you should go and get that checked out.
I'd listen. This is how much.
What part of your body was tingling? What part of your body was tingling?
Head to toe, my friend. Head to toe.
Bollocks.
It could be. It could there too. But it's just how much I look forward to having you on and hearing your opinion about all things Rangers.
Yeah, you're such a smoothie bastard, Cammy. As if I'm going to believe it. Right, let's go. Come on, Rangers.
Right, let's do it. Andy, I'm not going to lie to you, my friend, as we were heading into Ibrox last night. It felt a wee bit to me that the atmosphere was about as flat as a witch's tit. And it was certainly a lot more downbeat than I was expecting after a 5-1 cuffing of St Mirren. Variety of goal scorers, so it looked like as if things were things should have felt a bit more positive, is what we're saying. I still think that there's a hangover from being punted out the Europa League. So obviously we are now in the conference. And I don't know about you. I just felt it wasn't even close to a big buzz European night. I wasn't really expecting that, if I'm being honest, but I did expect it to a wee bit more livelier, a wee bit more vocal from the stands. Wasn't really like that, if I'm being honest, but I'm keen to kind of get your thoughts on the build up to it. And obviously our foray into the Conference League is now born out of necessity rather than desire, it has to be said. But I don't think we can be glib about Europe, even if it is, not the competition we'd prefer to be in, of course. But we simply just cannot function without a decent European campaign across the course of the season if we want this Rangers team to be able to achieve the things that we want it to. How are you feeling going to Ibrox last night?
I kind of get what you're saying. I think there's a number of things happening. The bubble's been burst a wee bit with the start to the domestic season, right? I think that the expectations were far higher than what we've been given to date, and I think that's just taken a wee bit of the joint out of our step. I also think on a European front, the swagger's gone, right? So I just want a Rangers team that I can be proud of. Sure, everybody listens the same, and you can be proud of a Rangers team even if they're not all conquering. And the European kind of dynamic, probably since Gerrard got us into gear, has been something that we've all taken a bit of pride in, and we've been able to hold our heads very high with everything that we've achieved over that period. And over last season and the start of this, it's kind of been all wiped away, hasn't it? I don't know what the stat is, but it was something like 10 away games without a victory or whatever. It's not quite back to square one, right? But Conference League is a realisation. The way we went out Europa is a realisation, and I think it's just a combination of things. There's always a combination, Cammy, of rapid fire continuous credit tickets coming out your bank, and I'm not wanting to play the Mother's Day card, but kids back to school, end of the Glasgow Fair, post holiday period. It's a dear old game watching Rangers. So I thought the crowd number wise was all right last night. I thought the crowd versus Hibs was all right, and I thought all things considered the atmosphere was all right because it wasn't like a rip roaring roller coaster game, was it? So I think we always hold ourselves to a high standard, and I get what you're saying, but by the same token, a lot of clubs in Europe would kill for an attendance like that last night, given the circumstances and the fact it was a non-season ticket game. Union Bears were in full voice for full 90, more or less. So I'll put a positive spin on it. How's that?
Yeah, no, like you say, I think it's not even so much as it'll feel a bit doom and gloom, but it's going to be doom and gloom until we can see a ray of sunshine. And what you've said about the domestic season is totally right. We've not really had that, and we thought we were getting it. as we appointed a new manager, we started to bring in some signings, and I'm still, and I've said this for a long time, Andy. For the last few weeks, I still can't make a definitive assessment of some of the players. And I think it's
Too
unfair.
early, but
Exactly. And you've not had enough games. I think the thing is, though, that some of these players are paying the bill for previous signings that have happened that haven't worked out. And I'm going to use an example. We were on our Patreon car pod show last night, myself and Colin and Simon. And one of the things that I'm seeing and hearing a little bit is that Dan Neil, for example, is getting automatically compared to Joe Rothwell.
yeah,
And
mental.
you're drawing lines there, which for me I don't think are fair comparables. But equally at the same point, I think Daniel played all right last night. I think that we have discussed a lot around the midfield that I don't think I don't think he knows what he wants from that midfield yet or what his best selection is going to be. But even when you take that out of it, he's still making assessments in some of these players. I think a lot of the fans, um, and again, I'm sorry to use this phrase because I feel like we've used it a lot in the last few years, but the scar tissue is then almost forcing us to be able to try and make quick assessments on players, which I don't think is fair, right? I really genuinely don't. And I think that, the other thing that would kind of take into account, is some of the stuff that you're talking about there is the Rangers fans who are going along and watching this and watching it at home and around the world, they're all there in the belief that this could click, that this could work. And when you want to be able to see some of the fast flowing football, and we scored goals against St Mirren with that, like, if I think about the Gassama goal, 3 touches, cut this out to Penrice, Penrice out to Gassama, Gassama finishes. That's the kind of thing that I've been crying out for us to be able to move the ball quickly, not take too many touches and penetrate. And I think when you saw the game last night, it felt a little bit like that did not look to me like a team that had cuffed somebody 5-1 at the weekend. There was a lot of side to side passing, really, really cautious. I don't know if again that's because it's a high stakes game, right? And you and I have spoken many a time about the necessity of European funds. Of course, that optic has shifted because of the takeover, and it's not like as if we're in the same position we were before. We were mega reliant on that money, but I still feel that that's a Rangers team that it's got other gears to be able to click into. I just don't know if it knows where those gears are. And we're all sitting in the stands hoping that that's something that we're going to see from them. And last night for me, I think that we started the game a little bit cagey. I had a heart and mouth moment, obviously, when Fernandez gets booked, like the first 10, 15 minutes in the clock. I've been very worried about him recently. And I think that yellow card for me probably calmed him down a little bit. It made him contain his game a little bit better.
Focused his mind. That's what it did.
Yeah, exactly. And so some of that sloppiness, we then started to cut out a wee bit. And so you see glimpses. And I think that's maybe where a lot of the frustration and where some of that, I think that lack of motivation that we've got as fans at the moment is that we see the wee glimpses at times and then we see something else bad. And you said it perfectly on here. I don't know what it was, a good couple of years ago at least. Everything with the Rangers fans is either sugar or shite. Can he be? Can he be somewhere in the middle? And I try and be in the middle as best I possibly can. But I think that when you look at games like last night, that's an opportunity for you to be able to try and show what you can do. Jablonec, I'm not going to dismiss. I wouldn't be disrespectful to him in saying that they're well out of our league or whatever. I don't think this Rangers team's got a right to say that about any opponent at the
But do you
moment.
think they're listening to us, Cammy? Fuck's sake, they're shite.
I right, okay, well that's on your head. If you get their version of the
Well,
Ultras
they were
routine,
shite
well
last
that's
night.
on
I
you.
thought it was
Okay.
probably.
Well, if they were that shite, why did we not beat them more than 1-0? Is what I would say to you, Andy. That's probably the point I'm coming to.
We should have. Listen, in the wider point you're making about expectations, how we treat players, what how we view football, the football played. I'm going to say something. During games, I'm like anybody else. I'm in the moment. I make reactionary comments, whatever. I go to bed, and the next morning I can tell if I was right or no because I'll either continue the feeling and say, nah, that was the correct reaction. The emotional reaction was the correct reaction, or else, your rational self kicks in. You think, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. And this is where, if you're one of the saddos like me that watches games back mostly, you then look at it with a different light, because when you watch it back, you know the score, you know what's going to come, and the emotions kind of taken out of it, and you can watch players and performances and you know formations, and you've got a cooler head, right? And this has happened minute to minute. I put a tweet out last night at half time saying, Nadir is not going to cut it as a front man. He's a wide player, and I like Nadiri. I love Nadiri, but he's not a front man in this formation because he's for various reasons. And then 5 minutes later, off, I was like, I think I've been a bit harsh. He's running his guts out, he's trying really hard, and he's probably a bit of a nuisance to the two centre halves. And I deleted the tweet. So everybody's susceptible to it. That's being a football fan, right? You do have the Twitter element, which are unhinged and they're just permanently on a rag, and I think they're best ignored, right? As you say, sugar or shite, the truth is in the middle somewhere. But I'm going to say something. We're sons of Souness and Walter Smith, right? We're of that age. And if there's one thing to take for the tenure of Walter Smith, there's no style of football except winning football. And it doesn't really matter how you get there. And I thought last night we should have won by 2 or 3 goals, absolutely, right? And I worry about the fact we're going out there with just 1 goal of a lead, but we should be fine. But the tie should have been done. But it was slow. It was a wee bit predictable. It was a wee bit horseshoey. But we made plenty of chances. I've not looked at the stats, right, but I dare say the XG was pretty decent, and we should have came away with more goals than we should have. And we controlled the game. Right, so in all the noise and all the kind of hyperbole and emotional, again, as I say, this emotional reaction, they really never had any chances, bar right at the very end, 94th minute, when they skied out of the bar, and that was against 10 men. We controlled the game in our method of keeping the ball. Sure, it could have been faster. Sure, we could have broke the lines a wee bit more. Sure, we could have had a wee bit more cutting edge. But that was a winning football game. We made sure that we won. Should have had more. Didn't get it. And you've got to take that as something, right? Now, folk will be listening and say, "Fucking hell, you've got low standards, Andy." But I really think there's more to come for this team. I really think that we're still finding, we're still testing what's happening. We're in a learning phase. McInnes is in a learning phase. We're going through a big change once again. It would have been great to have the breathing space of a victory against Hibs or a victory against Dundee United or both, but we've no got it. But it doesn't really change much. We're still in a learning phase, and we've still no got the squad, never mind the first 11 complete. We all know what we need to add to the team. So, as Fibber fans, I go back to it. It's natural. You react, you're expecting things, you kind of be emotional about things. But if you're a professional looking at this, right, and Derek McInnes would probably, he's saying all the right things, by the way. He knows he's no pandering to I need time or whatever. He's not doing what kind of Russell Martin alluded to. Every time he speaks about, I know the expectations, I expect it, and the fans are correct. But I think in the dressing room, he'll know, look, this is a tough ask for him to get things straight as fast as we want it. And the kind of fire that is Glasgow, especially when they look as if they're looking ominously good just now, and their players have slotted right in. So that's where I'm at, Cammy. I think we need to breathe. We need to allow players to become Rangers players, right? So Dan Neil, fucking lot of stick. And before last night, what had he played? 45 minutes up at Tannadice, and then a second half against Hibs, maybe? Too early, right? I thought he was fine last night. I thought he was an excellent number 6 last night. He shielded the back four, kept his position, discipline, moved the ball, and he made a killer pass for the goal. I thought he'd done his job last night. I think he's technically proficient. Every time I watch him, he tries to make a forward pass. He's got his head up looking forward more than most of their midfielders have got. And we just need to leave him to become a Rangers player. I hear about Shankland. He's shite off a sudden. Shankland's still our best chance of a goal in the penalty box, right? We just need to find a way to make that work. Now, I think McInnes thought two up front would be the way to do it. I don't think Shanklin's particularly suited to playing up front himself. But who's to say that if we don't get the quality of winger and the quality of delivery into the box sorted, that he's not the man that we should have in the middle part? So too early to write him off. Far too early. I think he's got loads to offer. He's just take a Hibs game, pretty shite touch, no running power, nothing coming off, layoffs or crap. Should have scored 2 goals, right? Because he made 2 volleys out of nothing, basically, hit the bar. So again, Shankland, watch his space. Too early to write him off. Dragovic, finding his feet, young boy, full of enthusiasm, looks as if he got a bit of character. Telling folk what today, likes to shoot, scored a cracker, give him time to breathe. McCanya's just slotted in fantastically. Penrice knows what it's all about. Brilliant addition. Brilliant addition. I actually think that'll be the sign that if Romans doesn't get his fitness together, Penrice will be first choice. If he keeps up the standard he's had in the last 2 games and the what he's added to this team. Gisama, written off last year, been our best player in the past 2 games, I thought, attacking wise. Folk will dismiss that, right? Say fucking gave a ball away or whatever. He, as a Rangers winger, was taking his man on, constant threat, creating things, and stuck with it. That has to be applauded when it happens. You can't just slag a guy when he's poor, and then when he has really good games, no, give him a nod. And like Nadiri, I was slagging him. I was like, he's not up to it. But ultimately, scores a goal, runs their defence pretty much ragged in a thankless task, right? And it's no his game. So I think he played out of position last night. I think he's a wide striker. So, long way of saying, Cammy, we need to just, as hard as it is to override emotion, we need to allow this team and the manager to breathe and if we have any chance whatsoever of succeeding, short term or long term.
Yeah, there's a few players that you've mentioned in there that I want to talk about. The one that I'm really focused on at the moment that you've just mentioned is Gassama. He has come under a lot of criticism. I have concerns around his end product, although
Aye, justified.
he got a great shot away early on in the game, and anyone, I think, over the age of about 5-year-old could have finished the chance that he had. The ball came in for Nadiri. But these things happen, right? I'm not judging him on that. What I'm judging him on is his effort. And for me, I think he just constantly tries. I think you can fix the end product. I think you can coach better decision making. And these things are linear. So you've just mentioned in there about Shankland and he's not getting service. Well, if he's not getting service because Gassam is making a poor decision, whose fault actually is that? And for me, that's the part I would work with Gassam on, because you're right, he is doing plenty of running. He looks a threat, and there was times as well they had to kind of double up on both him and Yokota at times whenever they were coming. So
Mm-hmm.
they obviously had done their homework and said they're going to try and play it out wide, get the ball into the box, maybe try and pick up second balls, whatever, right? So they had obviously done a fair bit of research into that. And Yokota, I think, has also been a good addition.
Aye.
I think that his first touch when he receives the ball, Andy, for a diagonal or from the halfway line or whatever, I think his first touch is absolutely fantastic. He does not have to think about it. He's already thinking about his next move, and that is a very, very difficult thing to defend against. As you rightly say, the Dan Neil ball in for Yoko at the back post was exceptional. Has that lovely dip on it, which takes it away for the defender, but Yoko can still get to it. And that's what I mean by a footballing brain. How many times have you seen other players think that they'll try and see, even at a terrible angle like that, I might just try and see if I can get this towards goal, but he does the right thing, knocks it back, and Nadiri's get the entire goal at his mercy. That was actually a really brilliantly well worked goal. Dragicevic, I think one of my criticism with Dragicevic was probably that I'd like to see him on the ball a bit more, but I probably retract that a little bit, similar to you deleting tweets and all the rest of it, because what I probably realise now, having watched the game back, is you said as well, was he's doing a lot of running, but he's taking players with him, and is actually that's something that we used to compliment Nadiri on when he did have a
Mm-hmm.
partner. And as you said, playing that out wide, maybe he has to take players with him. And I think he causes a disruption in the opposition midfield that creates space for others to be able to express themselves. Mechanic, again, I thought excellent. He got the stadium man of the match last night. I thought he looked really calm, thought he looked really good. And Penrice, I mentioned earlier on, obviously the assist for the Kusama goal, he obviously set up that assist and scored himself. You're absolutely right. He has slotted right in. That's probably the model. That's the expectation we all have of a new signing, that they come in and they just hit the ground running. And I think we've seen more evidence to the contrary in recent times. And maybe
It's
that's a
not
lesson
easy.
for us. But
It's not
that's a
easy.
lesson for us to learn. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need to be able to say it does take time to bed in. It does take time to fit into that shirt, and we have to give them the opportunity to be able to do that. And so, again, I'm kind of looking back at that in terms of where that game probably started and finished. The turning point, I think, for me, and I'm keen to get your view on this, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. Now, regular listeners will know I am a very much an advocate of VAR. I think VAR is an incredibly useful tool, but like all tools, if you get the wrong people using it, as we see domestically every single week, it's never going to help those users. And the people who ultimately pay the price for that are the supporters. It was rife last season. It's already kicked off this season, and we're only a handful of games in. Last night, what happened, for anyone who doesn't know, last night, what happened was the referee was called to a VAR review, and no one in the stadium had any idea what was happening. Um, he gets called over to the monitor, so we're all talking amongst ourselves. I don't know if it was the same in your area, Andy, but we're all talking amongst ourselves saying, was this a penalty? Was it, because I personally thought it was for a foul in the Deary, which had happened a few minutes beforehand. He then finishes his review, walks over, red cards Cammy Devlin, but doesn't stop as he's sending Devlin off. He literally just flashes him the red card and then keeps walking over to where the foul occurred. Now, on replay, which again we were sending about WhatsApp and various other things last night at the game, you saw the replay and it's a red card. It's 100% a red card. I'm not arguing with that whatsoever. But the lack of communication to the people in the stadium, the people who have paid money to go along and watch it, they have zero idea as to regards what's happening. That is something that needs improved very, very quickly. Because, as I say, if you had left your phone in the house last night and just printed out your ticket, you would have zero idea what had happened. It'd be the people around you who are telling you, and they're hearing it from the people who are watching it at home. Um, Really stupid by Cammy Devlin. He'd been on the park for 5 minutes at this point. I'm all for Devlin's robustness, and I think we need it within a midfield. But that's a really, really stupid challenge to make. And I think that the reason as to why, personally, I was confused about what happened was the Jablonec player was straight back up again. If he'd been on the deck writhing about in agony, you'd put two and two together and think, yeah, that could be a red. But it all seemed to pass without incident, and then, as I say, it gets stopped for the review. So ultimately, the decision that they came to was correct, but the manner within which it was communicated within the stadium was an absolute disgrace.
I kind of disagree with that. I'm surprised. I thought about UEFA. UEFA control everything. UEFA tell us that when the clock gets to 90 on the scoreboard, it kind of keep ticking like it does in domestic games. They control every aspect, everything, and I'm like, surely they've got a protocol that you need to have something up on the screen to say VAR penalty check or red card check or whatever. And then yesterday there was such a passage of play had gone on that you're like, right, well, there's nothing immediately happened there, so it must be that thing that happened at the penalty box with Devlin. And I was like, fucking, I gotta give a penalty here. And then he gives him a red card because obviously with the benefit of replay, you can see that Devlin's, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's trying to protect the ball, shield the ball, and doing so he's caught the guy's leg high up. I don't know. But the VAR thing, joke. It goes some going to do something worse than Scottish FA, but they managed it last night with that vacuum of information for the paying thousands in the stadium.
But they never. Sorry to interrupt, Andy. But the
Sure.
point I made yesterday was they never even had the display message.
That's what
On
I
the
mean.
jumbotron screens,
That's what I
they
mean.
never had any of that at
There
all.
was nothing.
Like, I know that there's like, and again, I think it was a good idea when you saw it down south in the cup games, and you saw it at the World Cup where the referee announces what's happened.
Aye.
I do think it's a good idea to explain it, but also if you're showing somebody the red, I've now worked out what it is that you've done.
Yeah.
So it's not going to make any difference to that. But there was
Uh,
nothing, absolutely nothing.
I wonder if it was something in Ibrox at Rangers' fault for not getting it done. I think it would be, but if anybody's listening to Rangers, tell us. Is it somebody lost their microphone or something? But I thought UEFA would have major protocols for everything like that. And the actual action, Devlin's. I'm fine with signing Devlin on a free, by the way, right? But he's a limited football player. He's probably a wee bit of a specialist for us that he would do a nice wee job up at Aberdeen or St Mirren away or something like that, where you need that wee extra bit of dag, a wee bit of attitude. But I'm kind of flummoxed as to why he was on the park. I had a number of players just last night. He's a ball shuffler. He wins the ball and he shuffles the ball to somebody else. They know the wall pass back, pass back. So I thought that was McInnes's fault for him even coming on. He took off Dragojevic, who's an attacking runner, you know, and they brought him on. Basically, slotted him in the same position. Totally different player, maybe a wee bit more defensively minded. Maybe that's why I brought him on. But I think it was a question to ask there. I'm not one for critiquing subs, right? But I was like, why is he on? And then it could have went badly wrong for us last night, right? Devlin would have carried the can. He might still carry the can. If we go and have a torrid night next week, then you'll go back to that moment and say, we could have got another goal with 11 men because it definitely affected us. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. But I think we had to go a little bit more defensive shaped, which I get, right? Because Jablonec probably thought, well, if we can try and get ourselves back into it, we've been handed a 15, 20 minute opportunity to be able to do that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how convinced I am that potentially we would have got a second because I think we had done a lot of hard work and a lot of effort. And at times, I just think, as I say, our decision making collectively in the final third was tough. Obviously, we had the Gassama chance. We had, I think it was a Dragicevic chance that came off the inside of the post. So we did have we had chances obviously in the first half and the Gassama one in the second. But I think the tie, I think we were pretty much in control of it. How much we wanted to go and try and press on to get second, I think there is a question mark there. Devlin, I think for me, and I'm the same as you. I think Devlin could prove to be a useful signing. Um, and I think that what I like best about him and where I probably see him used at his best is those stodgy away grounds. So if you go Easter Road or Pittodrie or Tynecastle or whatever, if you feel that there's been a dip in energy and in tempo, I think he's the guy that you bring on with 25, 20 minutes to go just to be able to lift it back up a notch to get you over the line. Um,
He's a Fraser with a shirt. That's what it should
yeah.
be. No, honestly, I'm not
No,
I'm
no,
not
I,
meaning to
I
be
agree. I
demeaning,
agree.
but Conor Barron, I really rate Conor Barron. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think he's highly undervalued at Rangers, and he'll go in and prove that if he moves somewhere else. And I think the fee that we would be looking for would actually reflect what I'm saying here. But so he's not Conor Barron, right? He's I don't know. He's taking too much prominence in McInnes's priority list for who should go in the park. For me, to be quite honest, but listen, I'm not like to fixate on it. I'm telling you, if we let everybody breathe and become Rangers players, I'm just saying that an assessment of Devlin's ability means that there should be players ahead of him. He'll still do a
Yeah,
job now and again for us.
but he trusts him.
He does
That's
trust
that's
him, but
that's the bottom line, I think.
should he trust him after that last night?
Well,
But his trust that assessment has been blown out of the water because he could have cost us a tie. He might still.
yeah, I get that, and there's obviously been mistakes made, but you're obviously saying there it's why is he coming in ahead of, I mean, Connor Barron or Lyle Cameron or whomever, right? In terms
Hmm.
of who
Hmm.
else could fit in there. Um, I think he, I think he could have brought on Asgard. Don't know if that would have been completely necessary. I don't think he would have done the job that Connor Barron could have done in terms of just being able to do that wee bit extra running and wipe out. But Asgard equally could have generated that second goal that we were just talking about as well.
Hmm.
So it's ifs
Well,
and buts and pots and pans.
Finlay Curtis was curtailed immediately, so he comes on at the same time as Devlin, and his role changes completely. Finlay's good for a goal,
Yeah.
and he basically had to work on. defensive side of stuff. So it changed everything for us in that last, whatever it was, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, and listen, I've got a lot of time for Curtis, and regular listeners will know that my my question around Finlay Curtis is if he's going to stay at Ibrox this season, can we guarantee him game time? Which I really, really hope we can because he's
But
got undoubtedly he's got talent,
do you know,
and
think, but sorry to interrupt, Cammy, do you know, think the way that we're going to play with wingers, and I think that's why we're being so active. I'm saying so active. We're trying so hard to get a decent winger or two, and I think we'll be working with four wingers, and he'll be one of the four.
yeah,
And be your quota's got a good 60 minutes in him. So I think he will. It's interesting he's not signed his deal because he's probably waiting to see the same thing.
yeah, and that makes sense. But I think that when you look at Curtis, when as I say, there was one point when he was taking the ball out there, and I'm fairly sure it was their right back or their centre half was running across to be able to block him. And Curtis could have panicked and tried to shield the ball and win a foul, whatever. But the footballing brain in him just kicked in, and he just let the ball drop and just let the player run right by him. And all of a sudden, he's just got all this time and space that he could go into to utilize. The footballing brain is definitely there. Um, I had hoped previously that if we were talking about how we could have used them, we might have played them a little bit through the middle.
Aye,
But uh, but but I think right now he's going we're going to utilize him more on the flank, and I do get that argument because I think he's capable out there as well. You've mentioned there, Andy, that there's a bit more work to do. We're just over a week shy of the window closing. Rangers are being linked with a lot of moves, but I'm keen to get your thoughts on where your priority areas are at the moment in terms of who you feel that we should be bringing in.
So recruitment, we've went up and down round the houses in terms of how we're looking at recruitment, and ultimately results dictate, don't they? But how we feel about things as a support. Again, I think we need to wait. It's too early, right? It's too early last year, even Russell Martin. Russell Martin, the recruitment wasn't perfect by any manner of means, but that period ruined a couple of the players and set a lot of the players back. Asgard was one of them. He was set back immensely by what the tornado of bollocks that we were listening to and watching under Martin, right? So I think that we've had a couple of smart signings. I think McCanya is, you can't say that's no good recruitment. It looks like a boom song regen to me. Now, anything can happen. It's only a couple of games, but he looks extremely promising to me, and he's handled absolutely everything that's been put his way so far. Defensively, I think Dragojevic has got a bit of character. Too often I see players coming to Rangers and they're timid, and he looks the opposite for a young boy. And he's obviously he was a captain at Partizan. Partizan's not exactly a wee holiday home. It's a kind of mythically mental league in the derbies and all that. He looks a bit raw. I don't think he's passing and all that. It's been crisp, but he likes to have a shot, and he had a chance in the box last night, and he's full of enthusiasm. I think he's got lots to offer, and I thought Yokota looks like for the money we paid, right? Because let's remember, our money is, we think things are a lot of money when it's not actually in the grand scheme of things. I think he looks like a good purchase. Again, bit of character. Doesn't hide away. I don't think he'll be affected by the pressure for the stands. But who else would we go there? I think McCrory's squad player, right? I think Nedeljkovic could be brilliant. If for what I've seen on the YouTube and for talking to a guy that I actually worked very closely with, is a Aston Villa stalwart, he could be a cracker. And when I seen him in the flesh last night, and you see the size and the frame and the running gait, I'm like, there's potential, real potential there of having an absolutely archetype attacking physical specimen of a right back. Right, we've got Sterling, who I quite like, but he's defensive and he just lacks that wee bit of quality going forward for me. This boy could be something really good. I like when Yokota and Penrice link up, and I want to see the same in the right. And if McInnes's kind of formation or plans have to work, then we're going to need that. to get to the question you asked me, Cammy, I think we need another winger. I said two wingers, right? But I think we're going to have to buy a striker. And it's got to be a striker that is comfortable playing up front of Sale, because what we've seen in the early doors is they've changed the formation. The two up front and the high press, no, the high press, the kind of man for man press that McInnes was employing at Tannadice and then against Hibs. Teams are just playing runners. It was knackering the team. It was knackering the players in the park, and it was not working. And then in Sunday against St Mirren, he's obviously recognised that, and he's went for something a wee bit more pragmatic. We're sitting in a bit of shape now. We've got one man up top with the two wingers, and I think it's more natural to the personnel we've got just now. And if you're going to rely so heavily on the wingers, which looks as if we are, you've got to be able to replace them at 60 minutes, either one or the other, and bring fresh legs on and go again. And you need a central striker that has, and this is hard to buy. They've got to have pretty much everything. They've got to be able to hold the ball up. They've got to be attack the ball in the box. They've got to be physical enough to handle two centre halves at their back. That's a big ask. So I think we need a winger, need a striker, and I think I would be comfortable with another centre half just to give us cover, because it remains to be seen how robust Godfrey is. I quite like Godfrey, by the way. I know you thought up at Tannadice he looked a bit. I think the phrase you used looks like a shitting dog, right? But Tannadice is it was an up and atom game, and it was a case of survival first. I think he'll be all right. I think he looks aggressive in the tackle, and he's fast enough and he's big enough. So we'll see what happens there. And
Nah,
then
I've made my assessment. I will not change it.
I know that you're Twitter. You're one of the guys at Twitter. And the last one I would say is, if Raskin goes, and you know what? I think the Raskin jigsaw piece is the one that's held back our momentum in the whole recruitment saga. If he had went, or if we'd got the money in for that, it changes the whole dynamic in terms of planning, budget, blah blah blah. If he goes, then I would like to see us go and get a I'm going to say top class. What's top class for us? I think we need to go and get a starting midfielder if he goes. Somebody, excuse me, that's undoubtedly, indisputably a starter. Who has that? I have no idea. But I still think we've got a couple of. I mean, Chakwani, he's no my cup of tea, right? He's no fulfilling anywhere near the potential of a guy his size, frame, ability. He's not getting close to it. What is he? Is he an 8? Is he a 6? Is he a 10? I'm just not seeing it. He had a decent centre half against St Mirren, and Fulkerson had a great game. It was baseline for me, and he's one guy that needs to arrive as a Rangers player. He's been here 6 months. He's been in a torrid time. He's seen what it takes to be a Rangers player. He's looked around him. He needs to start stepping up to the plate and being a main player. So, what was the question, Cammy? What do we need to help you?
There you go. You've answered it. Are you going to take the £25 million that Bayer Leverkusen are offering for Manny Fernandez?
100%. Fernandez, I mean, I put a tweet out the day about him because I've criticised him every week this season, because I thought he was clearly at fault to Andy's, right, for that goal. I thought against Hibs, he got caught up the park for the winner and his position. But if you look at that winner for Hibs, it comes to our right hand side because Dujon Sterling and somebody to tuck in because Big Fernandez was up the park and never got back fast enough, right? He just lacks the bit of defensive instinct and intense concentration that would make top class players. But I think he's got everything that modern football requires in terms of attributes. His passing is excellent. When he does step out of defence, he's excellent. His frame and his aerial ability and his 1v1s are excellent. He's just lacking that wee bit. And I said, he's 20, is he 24, 25? He's just that wee bit behind because he's not an academy product, other teams. So I think it's a good gift for us to, as Rangers supporters, to look at our players as others would see them. We sometimes get a familiarity breeds contempt thing. We know our players so inside out that we just take it. Tavernier suffered for it greatly. That we just forget the tremendously good points that some of our players have, and we become blinded by the deficiencies. And I think that's a kind of the case with Fernandes. If we get 20 to 25 million, I think that's a going rate for him. And I'm saying that somebody's criticised him all season. That is a going rate for a player that has got a headroom for more, because he's a player that's got more. And I think if he goes to a top league and plays with a better team, with, let's face it, better footballing philosophies, and there's probably training and all the rest of it that's a cut above what we still have in Scotland, as much as it's improved. I think he could go in and be a really, really good player and have a really, really good career. So, 20 to 25 million, 100%. We take it for that. We bought him for 3.5. And I think he's worth it. I mean, when we bought him, Cammy, didn't we all look back and fucking 3.5 million for a centre half for Peterborough playing in the third tier? What? Thelwell? Thelwell this, Thelwell that. The 3.5 million is completely justified, even despite the fact I'm saying this season he's been off the boil defensively. Completely justified when you look at some of the shite that gets spent on players.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't think that Bayer Leverkusen story is true, but I think that, I mean, listen, I could be wrong. Could be sitting here next week and saying, he's away and we got a massive turnover for him. And then, frankly, as you mentioned there, Thelwell could come back and do cartwheels around Ibrox. Do you know what I mean? But it remains to be seen, I think, is the nice way of being able to say it. I think that Fernandez looked more focused, as we said, when he got the booking, but I
Yeah.
have criticised him the same as you every week because I worry about his body language. I think that the manager needs to sit him down. And if he is still here in September onwards, I think he needs to realise how key is going to be to what we are doing. So
What do
it
you mean
is
his
a
body
case of
language?
so I think that at times he points the finger too much.
Money. You've been
I
off the
think he
money this season.
yeah, I think he looks he exudes a almost a defeatist attitude. And whilst I don't think that he's blaming everybody all the time, he's doing that thing where it's like he's shrugging. He did it a lot at Tannadice, where there is a well, he should be there and he should be there, and we've conceded this
I've
is the
noticed that. I've noticed that.
and you can get rid of that, right? I think that the manager can sit him down and say, you were being discussed as part of the conversation for being captain of this club and being captain of this club, and he's 24, so therefore we're not talking about a young guy here in football in terms, but I do think he has modicums of the maturity that you would need to be a captain. But at the same point, you then need to display that, and you then need to be able to show that what's good. And the games aren't all going to go your way. So you've got two choices. You can either stand up and stick your chin out, and you can start to get on with it and lead from the back, or alternatively, you can look like a victim and you can start to blame other people and not take personal accountability. And that's what he needs to eradicate. And he did it last night. He actually did it last night because, listen, I mean, I would imagine there was a lot of people who were thinking about putting money on for him getting a red card after getting a boot so early.
It was a big fear, yeah.
Aye. And so if you had said to me after the game, there was a red card, everybody would have said it would have been because of Fernandez. Obviously, it wasn't. Um, but he did the right thing. He showed that maturity by saying, "Right, I know I can't take risks," and they were comfortable to go to ground when there was fouls. There was a few times as well where they were claiming hands in the throat or hands across the face or whatever. They're going down, clutching their faces and stuff as well. So they were definitely trying to sell it, and that's why I think Fernandez was just mature enough not to get involved in any of that nonsense once he'd had the card. And he did shape up a bit of his pass, and he did look a bit brighter within that as well. But if he goes for 25 million, Jesus, I'll drive him to Germany.
No,
Um,
100%.
so I think in terms of looking at all holistically in the cold light today, I actually think, as we've discussed, there's been plenty of positives. So I think it's turned on its head to when we first went into Ibrox, and you're walking out, you're celebrating a win, you're celebrating a clean sheet. Those haven't been, common this season for sure. Um, and you know probably where some of those key areas are. The guys that we've spoken about as well, we spoke about Yokota, we've talked about Gisama, Nadiri. These are guys who are putting in hard yards. Like there's a lot of effort being applied there. And if you can then start to marry that up with some end product, being able to try and look at where we can start to make more decisive passes with the midfielders, as you said earlier on, can sometimes lift their heads up or impose themselves in games. McInnes has got to turn around and make those assessments and say, right, are you nearly there? I think Gasama is nearly there. I think Finlay Curtis is moving certainly very, very positively in that direction. But Finlay Curtis for me has always had a decent standard. Had a good loan last season at Kelly, and he is able to come in and continue on in that trajectory. Yako, I think, has come in and I think he's done really well. There's a lot been asked of him. He does a lot of running, and you could tell. Was it against Jablonec? I think he was dead in his feet, Andy. He was absolutely dead in his feet, and I would have taken him off at probably about 60 minutes, and he still would have been huffing and puffing, but he has absolutely put in the effort. So Rangers now basically have got a week to be able to try and supplement on top of these guys what happens. Nico Raskan cannot be a Rangers player at the beginning of September. I'm saying that now because he wants to be able to facilitate a move. I have no problem with that. I have no ill will towards him about being able to take this opportunity post World Cup and elevate himself to the next level. I'm perfectly happy with that. My feeling, however, is that if he doesn't go, I don't know how much we're going to see from Nico Raskin. Like, I think he's
He's
done well in the games he's featured this season, but he also realises the shop window is
yeah.
very much there for him. So he has to move. He absolutely has to move. And then what that then means for us to be able to do the next steps of our business is going to be really interesting to watch.
Well, what I'm interested in, Cammy, is the position that the club, the board, the new owners take when we get offers. I get a sense that they're trying to build the the brand that we're no longer a club that will take the first or second offer that we get given because we're grateful for it. And the one thing about the financial stability or the relative financial stability that new owners have brought is that, the Chermiti thing. I know the Chermiti was verbal and there was nothing in writing and then he gets injured, but I think the club is now willing to do what is done to us because we see it in our frustration when we try to buy players and it's back and forth and opening offers and that inching towards compromise where a deal's struck. And I just wonder if we got an opening gambit that was quite high for Raskin or Fernandes or for any player, would they be saying, right, well, that's actually our valuation, but let's see what we can squeeze out of it here because it is a game of risk the closer you get to the close of the window. Raskin himself, I'm talking about Chirkwani needs to arrive as a Rangers player, and for a long time I used to say the same about Raskin. He had to arrive, had to graduate as a Rangers player, as I used to say, right? You've got that bedding in period, you see what it's about, and then you were brought here for a reason, especially if you're a young player. There has to become a point where you become the senior player. And he's only, for me, he's only done it in flashes. He's 6 months under McCann, Neil McCann, Barry Ferguson, and Billy Dodds was the best football played for Rangers, and it's notably a spike. The rest of the time, he's veered from mediocre to, less. And I wouldn't be sad to see him go. I'm kind of staggered that he was in the World Cup squad and played such a prominent part, I've got to say, because when you watch the Rangers, you ask yourself, right, why was that? And I think if I would take 15 to 20 million, I'd take less for him than I would for Fernandes, because I think Fernandes got a bigger ceiling and Raskin hasn't he? To be quite honest with you. I disagree, Cameron. I was slightest bit surprised if he's here after the deadline. And if he is here after the deadline, I think he'll see out his contract to Rangers if he does that. For a personal point of view, he'll be sitting there saying, well, might as well see this out and get a, what age will he be, 28, get a 27, 28 by the time that ends, he'll get his Bosman payday.
And that comes back down to if Rangers are willing to take that risk.
But we've not got a choice. This is sometimes we forget this. Contract's a contract, and the players hold all the power, unfortunately. But we're trying to get rid of John Suter. We've bombed him out completely, and he's still here. I think I suspect behind closed doors, we've said to Baron, look, we're open to offers to you. Probably say the same for wee Cameron, stuff like that. You're only, it's like selling a house, you're only as good as offers you can get.
Yeah, very true. Very well. Listen, we've got a week to go, and what a week it will be. No game this weekend, Andy. So we're going to be.
No, now
You'll
going to
you'll be.
watch Lars Sissel now.
I was going to say you'll be back at the juniors, no doubt. So you'll obviously get your footballing fix. David, I don't know. We'll be back in on Monday in flagship. He might do a Q&A. He might do something else. I will leave that up to the big man. But I just want to say thank you to the RYDC. Thank you for their continued sponsorship of us. Please head on over to the rydc.co.uk website. You'll see all the great work that the Youth Development Company do on behalf of bringing through the next series of Rangers Starlets. So please jump on there if you want to be able to pick up any of their excellent merchandise, or if you want to contribute in any other ways. There's loads of options for you. Thank you to Mike Lee and Paul Myers, and most of all, thank you to the big man for eventually making the time and coming on and supplying me with some excellent upbeat content as always.
Ah, shooky bastard. Listen, you tell the listeners what you said to me before we press record. You're like, right, this will be a quick one. I went, a quick one? When have I ever had a quick one? 50 minutes of high quality conjecture.
100%. Listen, 100%. I will tell you right now, you will see comments in this show, and everybody will be like, Big Andy's the best thing ever. I don't know what they're talking about. I genuinely don't. I'm bewildered. But for some reason, they really like you. It's your voice.
Do you
It's
know
the
what
way
the
you
secret
put
is?
things. Man of the
Do you
people.
know what the secret is?
What's the secret?
You know what the secret is, Cammy? See how it
You're
says
sitting recording
familiarity breeds
naked.
contempt?
Uh,
You dirty bugger. The familiarity breeds contempt, so you've got to be. I ration myself in there for folk like that. That's you're on every week. That's what they're fed up with you, mate. No, that's
yeah, that's
Cammy
true.
again. Oh, fucking
I won't
Cammy
deny
again. Heard
that.
all his
I won't
jokes.
deny that.
Heard all his jokes,
You
man.
gonna have to prop me up with this, McGowan. That's what you do, right? But listen, buddy, thank you. On a serious note, much appreciated. I know that you're a busy man,
My
so thank
pleasure.
you very much for sparing the time. Thank you to all for listening, and I'll be back next week, even if David is not here in flagship. I'm sure he will be. I'm sure he'll knock some content out for you as well. But in case you can't wait until then, head on over to our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/heart and hand, and you will still get all of your Rangers content no matter what. Even when the team don't play, we still come and perform for you. So head on over there and join an ever growing community. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.